Okay. Are we live? Well,
We
we are
are.
live, but let's see if I can see myself on the stream. It still says, oh, there we go. I can see myself now. All right, guys, we're live. It's Sunday, October 26th, 9:25 p.m. Central Time. It's just after the Mavericks got their first win of the 25-26 NBA season in a 139 to 129 win over the Toronto Raptors. The Mavericks no longer are winless after an embarrassing, and I mean embarrassing, first two games of the season featuring a 33-point loss to the San Antonio Spurs in game one, and then a soft blowout loss to the Wizards in game two. The Mavericks finally came home with the victory tonight in their third game of the season. It's the third game on this five-game homestand to start the season. Very unique starting for the Mavericks. They desperately needed to get in the win column tonight. Things were looking really bad after those first two games. Three players scored in 20 points for the Mavericks tonight. Cooper Flagg had 22 points. It was a career high that went along with four rebounds and four assists. Anthony Davis had 25 points, 10 rebounds, three assists, two blocks. And D'Angelo Russell, I think the star of tonight for various reasons, had 24 points, five rebounds, six assists, and was a whopping plus 26 in this game. We'll talk about D'Angelo Russell's impact, as well as Cooper Flagg, I think, really coming alive and just showing even more growth throughout these three games. But Rohan, first want to get to you. We're not joined by Fazil and Vinay today, but Rohan, what did you think watching that game tonight? Are you happy getting the win? What was going through your mind?
Yeah, so I was there the entire time tonight, which I wasn't in that loss to the Wizards. A lot of thoughts. I'm honestly kind of curious if anybody involved in the team is listening to us or whether our criticisms are just that obvious because the last few games, a lot of our major critiques have been solved for. And tonight, I will say a lot of it is the team that you're facing. A lot of turnovers from the Raptors. They are clearly not going to be that competitive of a team in the East, in my opinion. So I'm not really looking at this game as, oh, wow, this team can make the playoffs. This team is going to do great. But I am cautiously optimistic because, I mean, Cooper was going to get better every single game no matter what. But man, AD not shooting that many volume jumpers. D'Angelo Russell getting the bulk of the minutes as your lead guard, which obviously isn't perfect, but it's a lot better than just depending on Cooper to do everything. So offensively, especially, a lot of very very good signs. Defensively, unfortunately, I don't think there's a lot to read into because of the weakness of the opponent in my mind. But yeah, I'm excited that the Mavericks are actually winning a game for the first time in the season because I was starting to hate coming on here doom and gloom every single time.
Yeah, man. I for one was getting tired of being angry. Like I was just getting tired of being angry, but at the same time, the Mavericks weren't giving us any reason to not be angry. I mean, like I said, embarrassing start to this season. You lose by 33 in the season opener, which is also the home opener, and then to make matters worse, you lose to the Washington Wizards, who were the worst team or one of the three worst teams in the league last season. I don't remember their record, but that was a game which I don't think anyone would have imagined the Mavericks losing. But tonight, they really righted the ship. I think it was no coincidence that D'Angelo Russell playing the 29 minutes that he did really helped steady the ship for the Mavericks, who I think have really lacked true point guard play. And while the Mavericks did have 12 first half turnovers tonight, they were able to cut that number down in the second half um, to three. Let's see what they finished with. They finished with 20 turnovers in the game. So I think in the second half, they ended up having eight turnovers. A lot of it came in garbage time. But when it mattered the most, the Mavericks took care of the ball. And that's why I think they're really able to pull away there in the second half.
Yeah, spacing was a little bit better just because of some of the rotations, especially, um, and guys not being asked to do things or just spontaneously doing things that they have no business doing. Looking at you, particularly Clay Thompson and Anthony Davis, but there are criticisms. I still have a lot of criticisms that I've solidified over 3 games, just because now you know kind of what this team's identity is, and the variance in shot making and just conditioning and some of these things. You're starting to get an idea for it, so I could open up with a lot of criticisms on specific players, and I'm sure I will. But I mean, D'Angelo Russell, although he missed a lot of shots tonight, especially a lot of layups earlier in their first half, um, did make quick decisions, and he is a more traditional guard. It's just he's a primary scorer, so his playmaking and his vision really isn't up to par to play the one spot. Um, and honestly, I'm not one of those guys who thought, oh, Cooper playing the one is ultimately the worst thing that you can do for his career. Yeah, it's difficult for him, but I feel like it's kind of helping him grasp how quickly the game flows in the NBA. And listen, tonight he really showed up. I mean, his shot looked great. I tweeted it earlier, but it reminds me of Dirk just because of the high release point. Um, I mean, man, there's very, very little to not be optimistic about long term on this team because of Cooper Flagg. Max Christie was also very good tonight. Um, Generally, the rotations have been a lot better, especially because AD and Lively do not share the floor significantly. But yeah.
I think you really hit on a few good points there. Yeah, Cooper Flag, I think biggest takeaway from today is he looked a lot more comfortable handling the ball. I think he just felt more comfortable being aggressive and trying to attack the basket. And we saw him, I think, maybe miss some layups that we'd like to see him hit, but we also saw some very crafty ball handling, as well as finishing. He's really patient when he gets near the rim. I think he has that spin move down really well, and kind of that up and under where he's able to fake out the defender. Very Dirk-like, as you mentioned. And so those were great things to see from Cooper. I mean, obviously, the most exciting thing about him is just like his bouncy athleticism. And we saw, 3 pretty huge dunks from him today, especially one that came off of a Derek Lively block in transition where he just elevated and really got up there and slammed it, got the crowd going. I think that really got the team going as well and gave them the confidence to finish this game out and get their first victory of the season. And so, Cooper Flag, 22 points tonight. That's, a career high in these 3 games. He went from 10 points to, I believe, 18 points in the last game now to 22 tonight. I'm sure this is going to be the first of many 20-point performances for him this season. Um, Max Christie has been a pretty steady force for the Mavericks all season, honestly. I mean, I think he's flown a bit under the radar because his counting stats aren't, incredible, only averaging 9 points on the year. He had 9 points in the first game, nine in the second, but 17 points tonight, was 3 of 5 from three, 5 of 8 overall from the field. I think he has proven to be kind of the steady, scoring punch for the Mavericks off the bench. Really their most dependable shooter at the moment. And I think that's great. And of course, D'Angelo Russell came alive today in his first extended run. It had been a pretty rough start to the season for him in those first 2 games, not getting significant minutes at all. I think he was shooting like 11% from the field coming into tonight's game. It was not good. But today, 24 points. He did shoot 8 of 18. He missed his fair share of shots, only 2 for 7 from three. But I mean, 5 rebounds, 6 assists, plus 26. Like it's hard to understate his impact tonight. And I think just having a guy who can kind of snake through the defense, get inside the lane, put pressure on the rim, dish it out to open shooters, dish it out to cutters, lob threats. Like that's what the Mavericks have lacked in those first 2 games, and they finally got it tonight in the form of D'Angelo Russell, who played 29 minutes.
Right, right. I mean, D'Lo missing 10 shots is pretty tough, and he did not shoot great from three, but he did have some shots where they're just like, you really thought they had no business going in, and they went in. And some of those were like grenades, late shot clock situations, but taking the pressure off of Cooper Flagg is pretty important. It also takes the pressure off of Klay Thompson, who didn't play 10 minutes tonight like he did during the Wizards game. He played 20. In general, the rotations were a lot better, I think, because D'Angelo Russell was given the opportunity to basically fail. And I don't think he did, especially in the second half. He kind of stabilized things and was pretty key in not letting the Raptors get out in transition constantly, just because he's not really passing the ball a ton, especially not on drives. So fewer chances for steals for them, and they really can't play the passing lanes. And on top of that, he's kind of a. You'll see him take like he'll go around a pick, take one or two dribbles, and then try to make a decision a lot of the times, which is good for that reason because the defense has to rotate around the pick and roll before he has to make a decision. Let's see whether that works. I guess they're playing OKC. Let's see whether that works against OKC. I think that's going to be a really tough matchup, and we might be tweeting out some not so kind things about D'Angelo Russell for that game. But I think him in combination with Najee Marshall and PJ Washington playing tandem minutes at the wings while Cooper Flagg is out really, really helped. I think they have very complementary skill sets, but also they're both plus athletes, and Najee can, kind of create his own shot a little bit, make plays out of the pick and roll for others, and both can get downhill pretty well. So they played to their strengths tonight, which is, I'm glad that finally happened. Did I love seeing Caleb Martin play serious minutes in the fourth? No. And honestly, the stretch that he was in there, I think resulted in an 8-point swing for the Raptors. I don't think any of us are surprised. But he did have one good dunk in there. So,
At the very
there's,
end of the game.
yeah, at the very end of the game when it really didn't matter. Uh, yeah, not much more I can say on the guard play. I just think the rotations have gotten better and better and better in a similar way to how Cooper has gotten better and better and better.
Yeah, I want to talk a little bit about what you had mentioned earlier about, the Mavericks kind of alternating between Anthony Davis and Derek Lively at the five. Aside from those first few minutes at the start of the game, or at the start of the first half and the second half, we really didn't see that tandem playing, which I think was to the benefit of the Mavericks. But I quickly want to mention, on the note of Najee Marshall and PJ Washington, I thought D'Angelo Russell helped them a lot because those guys are pretty good at attacking from the wings. They're pretty good at dribble penetration, getting to their little floater, or even passing it down to AD or Lively on the block, and getting them to try and finish on the inside. But it just wasn't working that well when D'Lo was not on the floor, and that's just because D'Lo can break down the defense in ways that PJ and Najee can't. And if you're, relying on PJ and Najee Marshall to break down the defense themselves, get into the paint, and then play make, like that's a tougher position to be in because that's not those guys' games. With all due respect, I think Najee Marshall has a lot of point guard skills, can play some valuable minutes at point for them, but that's not his game. He's not a true point guard, but D'Angelo Russell is in the sense that he can really break down the defense and put some pressure on the rim, which allows those two guys to kind of work off of the wing and attack and get downhill, which is what they're good at. And so hopefully the Mavericks found something tonight with D'Angelo Russell. Like we've said all throughout the preseason, it's not always going to look good with him. And I think tonight we got the full D'Lo experience. We got the good, the bad, and the ugly with his ability to hit the three, get in the lane, hit the floater, dish out to shooters. But we also saw him smoke a wide open layup that I don't know how that happened. We also saw him take some bad threes, miss them, and so. But hopefully tonight was a step in the right direction for his confidence as well.
Yeah, I think there were multiple layups that he smoked like that I remember. Maybe in the first quarter or early second. Um, the team also did a good job of playing in the passing lanes. I mean, AD having 3 steals, D'Lo having 3, Najee having 2, um, Caleb Martin even getting 2. Um, I don't expect this to happen a lot unless they have a ton of film on their opposition, which they might have going into OKC because, I hope that they take this seriously. If I mean Najee Marshall in practice availability, I believe yesterday, was still, talking with a lot of confidence about the team, which good for them. I mean, you got a lot of talent on your roster, but that means you better be watching a lot of film on OKC's offense and how they're playing pick and rolls, how they move the ball around. Just because they have a lot of weapons, and they are not going to make it easy on you to score. So you're going to have to get steals and go downhill against the defending champions in the NBA and the reigning MVP and Finals MVP. So we'll see. I don't want to extrapolate on OKC just yet because I think there's more to say on this game. But yes, D'Lo, I'm glad he was given 30 minutes to play tonight. The Mavs needed it, especially against this team. It would have been embarrassing to lose 3 games. I mean, the first one, Wemby's looking like an alien, so what can you do? To lose 2 games to the worst teams in the East would have been undeniable proof that this team is going nowhere fast. But the stats, to me, don't really indicate the concerns with AD as much, and I kind of want to pivot to that. Just because I feel like people who didn't watch the game and are just watching the highlights might say, "Oh, he only shot 1 3. He didn't shoot a bunch of mid-range jump shots. He must have played amazing today." His lack of conditioning is still a pretty big question. Not even a question mark. It's like an exclamation point question mark for me. I said it in our group chat earlier, but he reminds me of DeAndre Jordan in Luka's rookie year, where, he's clearly like one of the best athletes in the front court, but he's a step slower than the guy that you think of when you say Anthony Davis, right? That being said, he did kind of get momentum going in the third. He had a nice dunk off an alley-oop from Cooper Flagg, which I expect to happen a lot more. But he just doesn't look as mobile. I think the weight is definitely holding him down. He's not able to get up that much on like some of those standing dunks. He really needs the momentum, and even then, he's not really able to get above the rim as much as you want. And for a guy that's not a shooter, I mean, if he's playing like this, that's great. But against a better team, better coached team like OKC, I don't think he looks this good against serious competition. So it's still very much a concern for me. I do think that this team only goes where Anthony Davis can take them because it is built around him while Kyrie Irving is out. But Cooper did a great job of exceeding his, I don't even want to say his role, but exceeding what he has done thus far. And he's learning so fast, which I think takes a lot of the attention and pressure off of Anthony Davis. But all of that being said, he needs to shed that weight as soon as he can. Obviously, don't get on Ozempic or anything crazy. But I have watched. I live in Los Angeles, so over the years I have watched a lot of Anthony Davis in the playoffs, in serious games down the stretch in the regular season, and he just does not look like himself, right? And we know that it's the cornea.
Wholeheartedly agree.
But he's still not old. He's not that old to where you're like, oh, he's washed. He'll never be the athlete that he was. So I'm just hoping that we get to see the AD that we saw in that game versus Houston, because it right now it's looking like we won't see him for a while, and that's a little concerning.
Oh yeah, I totally agree with you. I mean, even tonight, until probably the late third quarter, early fourth quarter, I was having a lot of those same thoughts where it's like, man, AD does not look great right now. He looks heavy, he looks slow. His effort level was not where I feel like it needs to be. Like I still feel like defensively he doesn't have the kind of impact that we're expecting from him. Like he's not altering shots in any way. I think a lot of that has to do with the weight. He's not able to jump as nimbly. And as a result, like half the time he's not able, half the time he's not able to turn his body around fast enough because he's kind of getting mixed up in those screens. And then by the time they dump it off to a guy on the block or cutting to the basket, he has to turn around, doesn't have enough time to get his hand up, or when he does, he's still too far away from the defender. And I think that's got to change. I think some of that is the Mavericks getting the scheme down pat, and some of it is Anthony Davis just working his way back into shape. And I mean, Jason Kidd today in practice or maybe it was yesterday, I don't remember, but he said, playing 36 minutes a night will get you in shape in regards to Anthony Davis. And so I think, we saw tonight in the first half, AD played 17 minutes. It felt like he really didn't get off the floor much. And he ended up playing 34 minutes in the game. So I think that's about 17 minutes per half. Clearly, Jason Kidd's trying to get him some extended run out there to where he can hopefully play his way back into shape and have more of an impactful performance on defense. Because right now, I just feel like he's kind of lacking in that respect. I think offensively, he's starting to kind of find his flow a bit. Learning that he doesn't need to take those bad mid-range jump shots and instead can kind of live in the paint. And of course, that helps when he's the five. And so um, with Derek Lively and Anthony Davis, how do you see that being managed? Because I, I think the Mavericks are most effective when it's only one of them out there. But the problem is, you had AD play 34 minutes, but Derek Lively only played 21 minutes. And Daniel Gafford is not even back from injury yet. So how do you fit all those guys in? It's very clear that the Mavericks are going to be most successful when it's only one of them at the five, and you have like PJ Washington at the four, or Najee Marshall, or someone like that. I think that's where they're most effective.
Yeah, as we've talked about early in the season, I think Fossil especially has made some good points about it. But the lack of shooting from Anthony Davis makes him really difficult to play at the four. So, especially in that win against the Wizards, we saw the rotation start to kind of realize that and play him as the primary big on the floor. And I think that has helped the spacing a lot. Um, but you're right. As once Gafford is back in the lineup, you have three starting caliber bigs who can't shoot and really have overlapping skill sets. So how much are you going to be able to play them together? Um, I guess the very cut and dry answer is before AD is back in his normal Anthony Davis shape, once that weight is off, I think you might be able to run him, especially once Cooper is out, or uh, let's say he is playing the four, and then you have Gafford next to him. We've seen his ability to, you know, uh, throw lobs and be a little bit of a playmaker. I just don't think that the spacing is good without a primary point that is a really good 3-point shooter. And D'Lo had an aggressively okay night tonight. I think he was two of 7 from three,
Yeah.
um, which is, I mean, aggressively okay is kind of a compliment. Um, is kind of a mediocre night from him shooting from the floor. It's going to be tough to win games with him playing the four for a large amount of time next to Gafford or Lively. But once all three bigs are healthy, I think they're going to have to end up doing that. The issue is I don't see that working out as well, like complementary skill set wise, as playing Najee and PJ at the same time while Cooper is on the bench. That works out really well because you can play PJ at the four and you can have Najee playing as like a hybrid wing being your pick and roll ball handler on a couple of possessions as well, along with D'Lo. The biggest issue is like if you have D'Lo on the floor, if you have Najee on the floor, neither of those guys are particularly great 3-point shooters. So you would be hoping that Najee takes a leap if you wanted to play him, let's say, alongside AD and Gafford, right? You need at least one great 3-point shooter on the floor. Otherwise, it's going to be pretty difficult to get out of deficits. I mean, we saw it a couple times in this game where the Mavs defense wasn't great. Let a lot of easy baskets at the rim, especially somewhere in the early third quarter for the Raptors, which is frankly inexcusable. And they allowed them to make a couple of threes and then would match it with the two on the other end, which is something that you have criticized the team's construction for a lot. And I feel like playing Anthony Davis alongside another big is kind of mortgaging that 3-for-2 situation, or that 2-for-3. I don't know. You're trading twos for threes. You're going to do that a lot more with Anthony Davis on the floor. And I do believe that they will struggle to score significantly because of that lack of spacing. So I think the obvious answer is a trade. And we've been talking about that since the offseason. But that doesn't seem to be something that's going to happen anytime soon. So maybe at that point you shift Cooper to the 1, just because, yes, it's not going to be easy for him, but he is, in my mind, just a great shooter, one of the best shooters that you have on the team. And as he's gotten better handling the ball and in the pick and roll, you're just going to need the spacing. And so sliding Cooper up to the guard spot allows you to have a guy like Najee being that hybrid pick and roll ball handler next to him. And I mean, who did they have as D'Lo's backup for PG tonight? I don't really remember.
I mean, I think it was really just Cooper and D'Lo and Najee Marshall kind of all sharing it. Jaden Hardy played like 2 minutes in the meaningful portion of the game, but Brandon Williams was out tonight. Exum was out tonight as well. Nemhard also didn't play until garbage time, and so yeah. I mean, I think to your point, like a consolidation trade likely involving Daniel Gafford is probably kind of the correct solution here. That's really the only way for you to actually kind of improve your team, because it doesn't make sense to have AD, Lively, Gafford all playing the non-shooting 5 position. It just you cannot build a balanced team with that much resources committed to kind of the same archetype of player. And obviously Anthony Davis is the most talented of that group, but at the end of the day, your spacing cannot be good if two of those three are on the floor at the same time. And tonight was a lesson in that. And I'm just worried about that game against OKC tomorrow, because we know that with the AD Lively front court pairing, like the Mavericks are prone to getting off to slow starts. You just mentioned it now, like the math equation of trading, twos for threes or threes for twos, however you want to say it, right? Like conceding threes on defense and scoring twos on offense. I mean, tonight the Mavericks had 10 threes. They scored 70 points in the paint. That's great, but against a team like OKC that loves to spread it out to their shooters, Lou Dort, Alex Caruso, I'm not sure if he's going to play, but they got guys like AJ Mitchell, Isaiah Joe, Case and Wallace. Like those guys will burn you from three. And I just don't see how the Mavericks can get back into a game if they fall down by, even 10, 15 points in the first quarter, right? How do you come back from that as a team that doesn't shoot the three? And even defensively, like with that Lively Davis front court pairing, like how are you closing out on shooters against OKC with Chet Holmgren being able to spread the floor? So it's definitely worrisome, but it's something we'll worry about tomorrow, I guess.
Yeah, quickly to address what you said about consolidation trades, I wouldn't say this if we had any competence or confidence in the front office of this franchise. Do not trade Derek Lively. Just don't trade Derek Lively. Like he's not the candidate as a big to trade, and I don't expect them to. But like Gafford is the clear candidate for a trade, and I don't think that the contract that he's on now precludes him from being traded for any period of time.
It doesn't.
Klay Thompson also was significantly better tonight, and did play 20 minutes. I mean, as long as his role is limited to that of a spot up shooter or a tertiary shooter, or a tertiary shot creator, I think that he can function pretty well in these lineups. I mean, I think I remember him making two shots, maybe one three, and then one dribble pull up. Uh, but I'm just not confident about their ability to get the ball to open shooters. I mean, tonight we saw a because of Najee being inserted in the lineup and having all of these options and kind of having the pick and roll ball handler be one of those three guys. They relied a lot less on those clunky dribble handoffs. But we did see Klay have that turnover to Coop, I think somewhere in the second quarter, and we saw AD kind of like throw the ball to Coop. I don't know if it was last game or this game, off the inbound, and it just careen out of bounds. Like this team does struggle to pass the ball in ways that are very confusing because the guys who are struggling to pass the ball are not Cooper. They're like 10-year veterans in the league, former star players who have played very, very meaningful games and have won championships. So I'm just very worried that against teams like OKC and teams that are very good defensively and can drive and kick very efficiently, like you were saying with AJ Mitchell, Cason Wallace, it's not gonna look as clean as it did tonight. I think a lot of the overreactions that I've personally seen on Twitter and such comes because of the competition not being so good. I mean, the Raptors defense really didn't pick up until like the late third quarter, mid fourth quarter today. So you actually aren't seeing how this offense would play against a serious defense. And on the other hand, the defense has still not gotten to where it should be. And that is a huge cause for concern. I mean, the spacing is one thing, but these we're not even seeing the right passes being made. We're seeing a lot of very clunky possessions still. And that's going to be picked apart by a team like Oklahoma City. So I am not optimistic. I know there's a bunch of people who say PJ Washington is the OKC killer, and maybe he'll come out and he'll shoot 50% from three or higher on like 8 shots, but 10 makes tonight is not gonna beat a contender. I mean, New York and Miami played today, and I think New York shot like 56 threes, made 15, and still found a way to lose. Right? Like, and the Heat are not necessarily a contending team, but they are a playoff team in their conference. And I think you're going to run into that issue a lot where teams that are better at spacing and better at shooting are having to make more in order to win. And we're just not going to be able to reach that. Like, I don't think we're going to get to a point in this season where the Mavs are making like more than a dozen 3-pointers a game consistently. And what that means is they're just going to struggle to take these strong defensive, very physical teams, these young teams like Oklahoma City, out of the game, right? And because of that, they're always going to be playing from behind. So it's going to be a struggle. One win is good, but I don't think my outlook for the season has changed that much. They still have a glaring hole at point guard, and their spacing is not great. They need another playmaker and another shooter. And unfortunately, Ryan Nembhard is not going to be a starter in the NBA this season. So D'Lo can fit some of those minutes, but that's still a very, very weak lineup in multiple facets. And I just lack confidence in it.
I mean, to your point, you said the Knicks attempted 50, or was it the Knicks or the Heat that attempted 56 threes?
It was the Knicks. They
You know how
attempted
many threes?
56 and they made 15.
You know how many threes the Mavericks attempted tonight?
No.
26. 26. And they made 10. And it felt like they made 20. That's just how starved for shooting this team is. That 10 threes can feel like 20. And that was good. I mean, they shot 30 something percent from three. It's a respectable percentage. But yes, against the higher volume 3-point shooting teams in the league, that's not going to cut it. And that's why I'm just so worried about this OKC game. It's going to tell us a lot, I think, about how the Mavericks stack up against elite competition. I think you and I kind of know how it is, but tomorrow we'll shed some light and maybe expose the truth to some of the more optimistic people. And I'm not saying the Mavericks are going to lose. There's obviously a chance that they could beat OKC. I mean, Jalen Williams is still out for them. That's a big hole for OKC, but they've still found ways to win even against an undermanned Indiana team on Thursday night. So I think tomorrow's game will be big.
We'll see
I'm
what
also
we'll see
yeah,
what Cooper's able to do against Lou Dort, throwing
that is a
haymakers and
good
pile
point.
drivers at him.
That's going to be his welcome to the NBA moment might be against Lou Dort, who by the way is the most dirty player in the NBA. It's not because Lou Dort is some amazing defender. It's because of the extracurricular activities he likes to do in the name of defense. And so
And if I can interject, the Mavs have been a high turnover team these first three games.
that I was going to get to that. Yeah.
Yeah, 20 turnovers tonight. I mean, just from the eye test I brought up in my initial response about this game, in my initial summary, that Toronto threw a lot of passes that were easily intercepted by the Mavericks. But the Mavs actually ended up with, I believe, 6 more turnovers than the Raptors tonight, which is a cause for alarm because that has not significantly improved over the first 3 games. And against a team like OKC, they can run in transition, they can shoot, they can distribute, and they have a lot of weapons. Their spacing is very, very good. So I do see that as not only a weakness, but like a fatal flaw in the construction of this team as it is, and also just in how these guys are playing. Um, I expect a lot more film sessions with Jay Triano. How many days do we have in between?
I mean, the game's tomorrow.
Oh shit!
It's the second night of a back-to-back.
I forgot that those still existed in the NBA. Thanks, Adam Silver. Um, yeah, it's gonna be tough. I hope that they're able to see a lot of OKC film because it's going to be imperative that they play those passing lanes. That's going to be their way of maintaining the momentum and keeping control over the game. But if they're matching the turnovers on OKC, or even, well, this is likely, just having half a dozen stupid turnovers, you're going to give the momentum to a team that knows exactly how to kill you. So I don't want to hear about PJ Washington being the OKC Thunder killer. I mean, this team is not handling the ball well. So hopefully we see an improvement tomorrow. And, we don't see some insane night from Chet Holmgren or something like that.
I mean, it's very possible, and I think that was exactly what I was gonna touch on was that, OKC's defense is built to generate turnovers, built to deflect passes, get steals, and against a high turnover team like the Mavericks, like they're gonna be feasting if they don't take care of the ball. And it all goes back to this thing about if the Mavericks don't get off to a good start tomorrow night, I don't see a path for them to come back because they just don't have that 3-point shooting prowess to do so. I don't want to be a downer after the first win of the season, but I'm just saying, like, I'm being objective. There's a game tomorrow. There's stuff to talk about this game, and it's against the NBA champions at the end of the day, right? Like, it's the best team in the league. And so, the Thunder are kind of built to exploit a lot of the weaknesses of the Mavericks, but it's going to be up to them and up to the coaches to sort of figure out how to get around that. And if somehow, some way the Mavericks can pull off the win, I think the season is back on.
Well said. I mean, this is a reason for a marginal amount of optimism. And if anything, be excited about Cooper Flagg. Like
Yeah.
I know that the statistics are kind of, they show marginal improvements as well, but the eye test does not show that. I mean, he has gotten significantly better every single night, and I expect that to continue throughout the course of the season. And I hope that by the time Kyrie is back, knock on wood, everyone's healthy, and they can really make a run to hopefully escape play-in purgatory and get solidly into the playoffs. But that's going to take uh, being very serious about how you handle the ball until then. Um, so we'll see. Our pessimism is muted a little bit today. I mean, we've been talking about how the Mavericks own their own pick and they should tank, and we're hoping that they go 0 for 82. Clearly, that's impossible now. But if they don't shore up some of their performances, I just think you're going to see them struggle to win a lot of games against teams that are as weak as this team or the Wizards, which as the season goes on is just unacceptable.
Yeah, I mean, look, tonight was a step in the right direction, no doubt, for the Mavericks, but there's still a lot of the same issues that reared their ugly head. The turnovers, the defense, both 3-point and paint defense. A lot needs to be cleaned up. I mean, look, the good thing, as Anthony Davis said after the Wizards loss, is that there's still now 79 more games to go. Like, there's still a long ways to go before the end of the season, obviously, and even a long way to go before we can truly judge this team for what it is. I mean, we've been very harsh on them for good reason, but I think a lot of it has stemmed from our own biases of this team, our own opinions of this team post trade coming into the season. And so, yes, I do want to give them a fair shake, no doubt, but I think this game against OKC will be a good measuring stick to really see how they stack up, because I don't think that anyone would argue that they're in the same class as OKC, besides, the usual suspects, which we've already talked about. But how far are they from that will be interesting to see tomorrow night. And it is a second night of back to back. There are a lot of veterans on this team, but they do possess an 18-year-old who I think should be as fresh as ever to go. And I think this is the type of game that he would want to get up for against the defending champs. I mean, we know Cooper Flagg is a great competitor, and so I think he's going to be really excited for this and ready to go tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean, we've been saying it ever since the draft. Cooper is the most exciting thing in Mavs basketball at the moment. He's inspires nothing but confidence. So yeah, I fully expect him to come out with, and we've seen a lot more confidence from him every single game. His motor is beautiful. So I think he'll have some great plays against Oklahoma City, but I hope we don't depend on him to do too much. Uh, but yeah, there's
Yeah.
there's not that much that I have left to say. Uh, just anticipating tomorrow night's game.
Yeah, I mean, me neither. I don't know how much more there is to say. I mean, obviously it's the second night of a back-to-back, so whatever we say tonight may or may not be true tomorrow night. But I think that's a good stopping point for this live stream. Appreciate everyone who joined. I know it's late, but if you did, thank you very much. Rohan, you have any closing thoughts before we end the stream?
Yeah. I know I've harped on management a lot, and all of those criticisms are still here, right? Ego and pride are not good reasons to be a bad manager of a franchise. And all of that being said, if this team is not looking for a point guard seriously right now, or if they don't know where to start, um, I don't know. Kobe White in Chicago is a candidate to be traded.
Hmm.
So, I mean, you have a glut of bigs. You have AD, D Live, Gafford, and Powell, all of whom cannot shoot the three. So I would say moving one of them, Gafford in particular, for White and maybe someone else would be a nice move. However, they might want you to take on Vucevic and involve other guys in that trade. But you need to be exploring those options now because you need to fill the hole in your roster. I mean, D'Lo was playable tonight. I don't think he's going to be this playable every night. I'm going to be brutally honest. So, we'll see how the team comes out tomorrow, but I'm not that much more optimistic than I was to enter the season. I mean, actually, all of my thoughts from our last episode, from our last live, are still persist. Like,
No,
yeah, we had
absolutely. I
one
mean,
we had one good game against a bad team in the Eastern Conference. Like it
what
actually
what
changes nothing.
What one game doesn't change anything in both ways. One loss doesn't change anything. One win doesn't change anything. The NBA is a marathon, and it's all about trends. And right now, we don't have a ton of data to draw trends, but I think it's still there have still been some overwhelmingly bad things that the Mavericks have done, but tonight was a step in the right direction. So again, don't want to throw too much cold water on the first win of the season, but this is the reality. You know, we at Mavs Film Room always keep it real. You can call it negative, but yeah, I think it feels good to get a win. That's all I got to say on that. Just the everything is better the day after a win, and so I'll enjoy it for as long as I can. Tomorrow against the defending champs, it's going to be a very tough battle, but you know we'll see how the Mavericks stack up against the Oklahoma City Thunder.
Indeed. And in Coop we trust.
In Coop, we trust indeed. Well, all right, Rohan. I think that's a good stopping point. Appreciate you. Appreciate everyone for tuning in, or if you're going to listen to this later, appreciate you for that. Follow us on Twitter at Mavs Film Room if you happen. Subscribe to us on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts. We'll be back with another